Startup Lust, der Podcast von Advisory Team.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of Startup Lust. Today with Robin Teurlings. You come from the Netherlands as a half Belgian. I really like that, but so that we can all understand each other out there, we have agreed to speak in English. Hi, Robin. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, I read on LinkedIn that you invested your first money at the age of 13. What the hell
Yes.
did you do there?
You start off with a longer question, at least for my response.
No problem.
No, okay. I was a street musician very young in my life. That was because I read a book about some homeless kids in Paris that had basically to make do with whatever they could to make some money to stay alive. So they were doing performances in the streets, and I read that book when I was 12. And in the Netherlands, as you might be aware of, there's something called King's Day, which is the biggest festival of the year. And I read that book just before King's Day, and then I was like, hey, maybe I have to try that out on King's Day, which I did. And that was very successful. I made around 12 guilders in 1 hour, which is around 12 euros nowadays, which was a fortune at that age. So I continued doing that. And I've been doing that for about 5-6 years. And effectively, I made enough money to get into investing. I wanted to buy a stereo first. But then my parents vetoed that because they said, no, you don't need an expensive stereo like that when you're 13 years old. So they said, okay, we're going to buy you this very small radio and then do something smart with the rest. And yeah, from one thing came another. So I bought stocks in the company that my father was working at. And that IPO'd when I was 18. And that's, yeah, in short, how I got into investing.
Yeah, so you call yourself sometimes Robin, the startup buddy, but I would say the Dutch Ed Sheeran would make it also.
I really don't want to compare myself with Ed Sheeran. He's a much more brilliant musician than I am. So, but I did make a little bit of money making music. Yes.
Okay, I would say let's give it a try, but maybe another day because we want to talk about other things. So what kind of money? What kind of money? What did you do? Invest with the money?
So like I said, the first investment was not like a rational one, right? It was basically my father telling me, let's do something wise with it. And the wisest person that I knew was my father, so I just followed his advice. I got into investing by myself after that company IPO'd. So then I had more liquidity and I started trading on the Dutch stock exchange, which is called the AEX. I still do that. Then I diversified a few years later when I was 21 into angel investing. So that's when I started investing in individual companies. First company I invested in was a company called Behold. It doesn't exist anymore, but it was bought over at some point by Microsoft. And over the years I've invested in most things that I don't consider just betting. Like I only invest in stuff that I kind of understand. So businesses that I think I understand, that I have some affinity with, either with the content or the business model or something else. I don't do cryptocurrency and stuff. That to me is just following graphs and being lucky.
Yeah, it's being with me the same thing. A friend of mine was lucky enough to invest in crypto 15 years ago, so that made sense afterwards.
Yep.
But I don't give a thing about it because I don't understand it as well. So I'm out of it. So what are the things, the contents you invest in, and why so early starting as a business angel?
Well, as you can tell, my father has had some influence on me. So he was an angel investor already for a while, and when I was 21, there was that company that I just mentioned, Behold, that he was investing in. And he told me about it and it interested me. So I asked if I could join in, which I could. So that was the first angel investment that I did. This was a role-based access software solution. So they basically sold software to very big companies with a lot of employees that they need to onboard all the time and make sure that everybody has the right IT access in the different platforms that they typically have in large companies. I've been in IT for most of my career myself, so this was a topic that I understood and that I knew how to assess it. Most companies since then have had something to do with IT or software until 4 or 5 years ago when I got more interested into climate change, decarbonization, and things like that. Since then, I've been looking into that topic more and been investing in that in companies in that space more.
Your motto is work hard, play hard. Is that a typical the Dutch mindset?
No, I don't think so. It was the motto at the time that I was working for Accenture, which is a US-based company. And it kind of stuck with me. I kind of like it. I think there needs to be a balance between life and work. I don't think there's anything wrong with working hard. Like I don't mind making long days and doing a lot of things, and but there also needs to be space for just having fun and nothing to do with work whatsoever.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine with me, definitely. You have worked in both in small startups and corporates. What are the main differences in your opinion?
Oh, there's a whole list.
Or what fits better?
I mean, I only got into working into a startup when I started my own company, which was in 2016. When I did that, even though I had been investing in startups, I probably had a lot of misconceptions about what it would be to have my own company. So one of the misconceptions is that you have a lot of freedom, that you can decide everything yourself, that you're going to change the world, etc., etc. Most of those things, unfortunately, I don't necessarily believe anymore. There's the impact that you have in a big company is in a very different speed. To give you an example, in my last regular job, which was at ING Bank, which is one of the major banks in Europe, I was a program manager. One of the large customer-facing programs that I did there was setting up a new savings account. To actually do that, there was a lot of people involved. It took more than 2 years to actually get that launched. So at some points during a project like that, it can be frustrating because you feel that everything goes so slow. But then when we actually launched, we pulled in 6 billion euros of savings within 3 weeks, which was the largest savings product that ever had and still has been launched in the Netherlands ever, in terms of like savings that were deposited inside the bank. So once you actually launch that, then the impact is totally uncomparable with what you can do with your startup. Your startup is the other way around. Like I can literally switch my platform now. I did this morning. Like I was talking to some developers in my team, and we had to make a couple of switches. So you can literally do it like that. But there's very few people who actually notice that you're doing that. So that's a major difference in my opinion. Another thing that I personally really had to learn, when you work for a big company, people work with you because you represent them and you represent that brand. When you start on your own, they do business with you, which is very different. Because when you start out, nobody actually knows you. I learned the hard way. So it literally, I started my company in Singapore, so that was another difficulty that I was new in that country and I didn't have a network yet. But basically the first year and a half, it was very hard for me to get any meetings with anybody about anything. And when I was still working at Accenture and ING, people were spamming me to have meetings with me, which was entirely the opposite experience. So those are a few examples, but there's many.
Why did you start your company in Asia?
Has nothing to do with work. I've been fascinated with Asia since the first time I went there, which was in 1997 when I went there just on holiday by myself, backpacking in China. Ever since, I've been fascinated by not just China, but by the continent. So I always had this dream of going to live there. And then at some point, I met my first girlfriend, now wife, and over time she also got enthusiastic about the idea. And at some point, we figured there's always a reason not to go, so we decided to just go. And yeah, we went to Singapore and lived there for 8 years.
Total different stories than usually, but wow, it's really great. And one interesting thing you said, you don't believe in making the world much better. That's a different mindset to most of the startup guys. I know, because everyone says, oh, we have a vision, we have a mission, and let's go, let's change the world. Why is it a little bit different with you?
I'm not sure if I would put it that way that you're understanding it. It's I definitely do like to make the world a little bit better within the square meter that I have and that I can influence. It's good that you're driven by the idea that you have, that you want to make it big, etc. So that I do think if you don't, you're probably not going to last anyway, because it's really hard to build your own business. But the reality is that it also is very, very difficult. Even if you do really well, right, and you build a company with 100 people or with 200 people, that impact is still going to be negligible compared to what I did at ING on a country level or on a global level. There's a few exceptions, right? Like there's the Zuckerbergs and the Jack Ma's and those people.
The Adrians.
The Adrians, yes. What I learned, fortunately, fairly quickly initially, right? Like the first 6 months I was building my company, and I was sitting in my study room and I was reading all these articles of how to build this company, and I was reading about these people. I was like, I must be stupid because I'm not nowhere near that point yet. But then fortunately, after about 6 months, 9 months, I realized, no, actually these people are in the paper because they are the exception. And because they are the outlier and because they are brilliant. And that gave me a little bit peace of mind that statistically speaking that I would get there, that chance was very small. But even the startup founders that I typically work with, which are really doing fantastic work and get to a company that is 50, 100 people, that is maybe a few million value, etc. I already consider those people extremely successful, because also doing that is super, super hard. Also, those people are very tiny fraction. Actually, for my own company, right, when I started the Startup Buddy, there was a lot of people doing something similar. That's now 8 years ago. As far as I'm aware, from that batch of companies that started out back then, I am one of the 1, 2, maybe 3 people still around in this space. All of them already most of them already gave up long time ago. If I'm successful, that's up to other people to assess. But I'm doing pretty good already, still being there.
What are you doing actually at the Startup Buddy? Let's talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, so the Startup Buddy is an online accelerator. We basically do what other accelerators do as well in terms of supporting new entrepreneurs and learning how to build their business and accelerating the process. The huge difference is that we do everything online. So it's a learning platform where you learn how to set up your marketing, how to build a team, how to validate the service or product that you're working on. All those things that you need to learn along the way of building a company. We also provide a community there. So we have mentors there, we have investors there, we have obviously a lot of other entrepreneurs. So our community by now is 5,000 people, primarily in Southeast Asia, because that's where I started the company. And we basically give people the knowledge, the skills, the network for the first 2 years typically of building your business. We don't work in cohorts, so you don't actually have to apply. Anybody can just use the platform. And it's basically you make progress through doing on the platform. So it's a little bit gamified, meaning that you have to put in energy to earn coins within the platform that you can then use to unlock different other aspects within the platform.
What do you think are the most different things about building a startup in Asia than maybe in Europe or the US? Let's say Europe.
Well, apart from that, you should never migrate to another country before you start a new company, which I did. The most difficult thing, I would say, if you put the question like that, is figuring out where there's actually customer demand. Why do I say that? Virtually any entrepreneur I know starts out with a brilliant idea in their own mind. And that's also a good place to start, right? Like that's normal. You usually come up with your idea based on the career that you have or the studies that you're doing or a particular problem that you're experiencing. And then you think, hey, let's build a business out of that. And that's totally fine. But the reality is that there's a very good chance that you're the only person in the world experiencing that exact same problem in that exact same way. And that there's maybe not that many other people that are willing to pay for that exact problem. So the way to overcome that is to then interact as much as possible as you can with potential customers and trying to find out if there's more people like yourself experiencing that problem, but also tweaking it along the way in such a way that you can build a company out of it, make enough revenue out of that. This is taught by every accelerator, but actually doing it is much less self-explanatory as just telling it to you right now. Like you have to be very open to being wrong, basically.
Do you know the mother test?
I don't actually, if you put it like that.
A friend of mine said he always does the mother test when he has a new idea. He asks his mother what she thinks about it. And and if she says, okay, I would buy this, then he says, okay, then they are not disgusting his mother or anything like this, but then then there will be enough other people who are also willing to pay for it. And if she says no, I have to at least think about it a second time.
Okay. Well, it's I didn't know the mother test. I have my taxi driver test, which is similar. So I tend to pitch an idea or my company to taxi drivers. And first of all, if I can make them understand it means that my pitch is simple and clear enough. And secondly, if they get interested in it, then I assume there's probably demand for it because there's a lot of taxi drivers. So yeah, it's similar.
It's a good idea, I think, because they don't give a shit how the company you are working for is driving, because they don't know you, and for example they will never see you again. So you get a good opinion of that. That's a great idea as well. I have to remember that as well. Yeah, Claudia,
it's probably also less painful than your mother all the time saying it's a stupid idea.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Claudia Markussen put us two together today. Yeah. And you have a new thing to start with. what are you doing? You two guys. Claudia was already guest here, so if anyone wants to listen to that again, free.
Yeah, so we've been working on the setup of a small fund called the Zero Emissions Fund. That's actually been up and running already since 3.5 years. We basically have done a couple of small investments through that. And the reason we started the Zero Emissions Fund is because we both feel that climate change is, a few years ago, I would have said the biggest problem the world has. At the moment, it's one of the biggest, I guess. But it's a problem that we feel very strongly we want to put our energy and time into to solve. First, we were doing that through investing, but we also want to expand that by helping people in building companies that can overcome this problem. At the moment, we do this on the side of a lot of other things, but we want to give this a little bit more structure. So next year, we want to run our first global online accelerator under the Zero Emissions Fund, which will be the Zero Emissions Accelerator. Basically, what we are planning to do is bring entrepreneurs together from around the world that are working in sustainability and climate tech. Run a 3-month program where we help them build their business. We will input our time, energy, experience, and knowledge for free. And at the end, we will invest in what we consider the best company from the entire program. As far as I'm aware, yes.
It's open only for Asian people, or
No.
who can join it?
No, it's a global program. It will be entirely run online. I've done this through my company before already, so the concept in that sense for me is not new, but for climate tech and sustainability companies, it's new. So it's a global program. It will be an up or out program, and let me explain what that means. So a lot of people ask, well, what stage are you accepting and things like that? We will actually not select at the front door, meaning that everybody who is relevant for us in terms of that they're in sustainability or climate tech is welcome to join the program. But throughout the program, there will be a lot of work that they're supposed to do, including that we will go through to due diligence with them near the end of the program. Basically, if they don't stay on track throughout the program, we kick them out. So we want them to be serious because we are serious about it as well. We already have quite a cool group of mentors that have already committed to this program. So all these people help us do this for free as well. But it has to be how do you say that? Both, there needs to be enough energy from both sides. So the startups, the entrepreneurs who join, they have to really be serious about it and put in the time and the energy that we require.
You say you kick them out if they don't get some goals. Are you working with KPIs, or how do you do that?
Yeah, so basically every 2 weeks probably we will have live sessions. There are aspects of their company that they're supposed to work on. So initially that will be very easy, right? It will be like, what's your elevator pitch? What does your team look like, etc., etc. But later on, they will have to have a pitch deck that has to increase. They will have to have a very clear idea about where they are. They have to have traction about the company. We're looking for them to be investable by the end of the program. Now, depending on where they start, that's going to be easier or more difficult for them. Like if they're a running company and everything is already up and running, it's probably going to be very easy for them to stay on track. If they have nothing at the start, for us, that's fine. They're still welcome to join in, but they will have to work very hard to reach the end of the program.
Okay. So it's good that you said that already, because otherwise one or two guys out there could be afraid if they say, "Whoa, I'm going to be kicked out. It's nothing a problem. I want to join maybe." But it doesn't sound that the goals are that high. So everything's fine, actually, thinking.
No, and then kicked out maybe is not the most sympathetic way of putting it. Kicked out means that they cannot leverage the more valuable parts of the program. So at some point, we're going to connect them to the mentors. These people commit their valuable time. We are only going to do that with companies that have demonstrated that they're serious about it.
Yeah. So that's totally fine. If there anything, is there already the platform where they can join, or how do they connect with you?
Yes. So are you still there? Because
Yeah.
yes, sorry.
I'm still there. So I'm just asking again. If is there anything interested to hear a little bit more about it, where they can connect with you?
Yeah, the easiest is to either connect me on LinkedIn, which is Robin Teurlings. As far as I'm aware, you will find always me. Otherwise, you can go to zeroemissionsfund.vc and you can find all the information there. You can already pre-register. You need a program code. You can find that on our website, or if you connect with me, I will send that to you as well.
Yeah, that's great. As to anyone, I'm asking always for questions to give a better idea about the mindset. Usually, I ask, do you want to make a startup in Europe again or somewhere else? With you, I have to ask, do you want it to make it in Asia again or anywhere else? What's the answer about this?
Well, I mean, technically, my company is in Singapore. A lot of people that I work with are in Asia, but the reality is by now I literally work all over the place. It's one of the nice benefits, at least from my perspective, that came out of COVID. Through that, my scope has grown all around the world. I just did a program through my business in Canada. We actually already have quite a few companies joining from Africa for the Zero Emissions Accelerator. There's some really cool new initiatives there because people there actually experience the impact of climate change maybe more even than in Europe. So my dream, but I've been able to partly achieve it as already, is work with anybody interesting around the world, wherever I like. And where my company is, that's a formality, quite frankly.
Yeah. Remote or office?
Remote.
Why?
I think offices are a concept of the past.
Okay. Bootstrapping or investors?
Bootstrapping. That probably I have to explain, since I just said that I am an investor. No, I'm answering from an entrepreneur's point of view, not from an investor point of view. From an entrepreneur's point of view, first of all, as an investor, I will never invest in a company that has not bootstrapped. Because if you don't even feel that you believe in your own idea enough to invest part of your time and energy in it, why should I, as an investor? Secondly, I think you have to bootstrap to become very aware of how valuable everything is in your company. It helps you learn which choices to make. So always you have to bootstrap first. And then finally, I said when I started as a company, as an entrepreneur, I wanted the freedom. If you can keep investors out of your company, depending on what you do, you will simply have more control. So if you came up with that brilliant company that can just run by itself without investors, please do. I mean, you probably have more fun doing it.
Yeah, that's quite interesting from investor's side, but really nice to hear that. What are the 3 tips you would give founders?
3. Okay. It's one that comes up all the time, but only do something that you think you enjoy long term. setting up your company will never be quick. It will never be easy. I literally don't know any entrepreneur who thinks of his business or her business that way. You have to be in it for at least 5 years and probably a lot longer. And you can only keep doing that if you really like what you're doing. Like if you just do it because you want to get rich and you think there's a lot of money in it, I can guarantee you that you will burn out in 6 months or less. So that's the main thing. One thing that I had to learn the hard way, think very careful about who you work with and who you work with on all sides. It's very easy to burn a lot of money quickly on the wrong people, both on customers as well as on employees or partners or things like that. I immediately want to say that nowadays I fortunately have become pretty good at that. So I've really good people on my end and as a co-founder, but I had to learn that over time. So that's probably your most costly mistake if you do that wrong. And thirdly, don't try to build your company doing marketing. That's the other way of burning a lot of money without actually building a business that can generate revenue. So a lot of people, they think, oh, it's not really working the way I was hoping. Let's put more money into Facebook. That's probably gonna be the death of your company quicker.
Yeah, thanks for joining. Unfortunately, we're running out of time already. I would love to talk a little bit more about climate change and all those things, and maybe about the achievement history of yourself. But it was really nice that you
You're not gonna believe this, but I'm literally wearing an Ed Sheeran t-shirt.
Oh, that's great. That's a great ending. So thanks again, and have a good time.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, and for you guys out there, I think it was giving a lot of people more enthusiasm for starting up instead of frustration. I hope you out there have that too. Until next time, so see you all. That was great. Yeah, that was a cool.